It's Cards versus the Irish on Sunday night.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Louisville men's basketball team plays in a rare Sunday evening game. They'll take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, looking to push that winning streak to 4. We'll preview that matchup. The Louisville baseball season starts tonight down in Arlington. They play 3 ranked teams this weekend. We'll give a small baseball preview. And then we'll also discuss the women's basketball team collecting 2 ranked wins in a week and how Jeff Walz's team is continuing to get better and better as we get closer to the NCAA Tournament. The Louisville men's basketball team is currently on a 3-game winning streak after blowing NC State out on the road on Wednesday evening, winning that game by 25 points. They now turn their attention to playing Notre Dame. And whenever the Cardinals play up in South Bend, I always get a little bit nervous, and this might just be because of what the Cardinals have had to endure playing at Notre Dame through my lifetime. I mean, we have witnessed the Cardinals lose some really tough games. Notre Dame seems to play much better at home, especially when they're taking on the Louisville Cardinals. Now, whether or not the statistics match up to that fear, that's a different story. But it just feels like there's just some uneasiness when we play at Notre Dame. And like I said, that might just be me, but from the fans that I've talked to, kind of sounds like that is a common theme amongst Cardinal fans. But Notre Dame not really having a great season thus far under Micah Shrewsbury. 11-13. They are 5-8 in conference play, which is 11th in the ACC. They actually just moved up, I think, 2 spots after defeating Boston College on the road, but it took the Irish double overtime to be able to pull it off. So by all means, Louisville Cardinals should win this game. The spread isn't out yet, but the ESPN Analytics matchup predictor, which isn't really a metric that I like to put too much emphasis on, but I do find it quite intriguing to look at, that indicator has the Cardinals at a 62.8% chance to win this game. I would imagine that when we see the spread, it's going to be, if you think about the NC State spread being 6.5, and that was with the possibility of Chucky Hepburn not playing. He was a game-time decision. I think that this spread's going to be maybe around 8.5, maybe 7.5. I do believe that Notre Dame is a better team than NC State, not just because we're looking at their records, because NC State's more talented than their record. I still think that the Fighting Irish are the better team. When you look at the net rankings through yesterday, Notre Dame was just inside of the top 100, currently at number 99. They have a quad 1 opportunity against the Louisville Cardinals, obviously, for Pat Kelsey's team. This is a quad 2 opportunity, but breaking down where their wins are in the respective quadrants, 0-4 in quad 1. And those are to Houston, 11-point loss, close loss on a neutral site to Creighton, a blowout on the road against Georgia, and then a 8-point loss at Duke. They're 2-5 in quad 2 with wins over Georgetown and Virginia. They're 3-3 in quad 3 and 6-1 in quad 4. Their most recent win over the Boston College Eagles, snapped a 3-game losing streak in which the Irish lost to Miami. They lost to Florida State and they lost to Virginia Tech. All three of those losses by less than 8 points, but nonetheless, still losses. So this is one of those matchups that it's critical that you just handle business on the road. Notre Dame is not one of the best teams in the ACC, but with their streaky three-point shooting, they can beat anyone on any given night, and that feels like a given. Oh, of course, Dalton, any team can beat any other team on any given night. Yes, Notre Dame is one of those teams that can really outplay their record because of that three-point shooting. They are top 5 in the conference at three-point shooting percentage, around 36.9%. However, when you look at the statistical breakdown, very top-heavy in terms of production. Notre Dame is the second worst team in the ACC when it comes to bench points, a little bit higher than Wake Forest, 14 points a game. That's all that Notre Dame is getting from their bench, and it might be even worse for Micah Shrewsbury's team because Princeton transfer Matt Alako is questionable for this game. As of Friday morning, he's questionable. Notre Dame's fourth leading scorer at 9.4 points a game. He's dealing, I think it's a wrist injury that is going to make him truly a game-time decision. So if he's not able to go for Notre Dame, it makes things even worse for a team that's just not getting a ton of production from their bench. They are getting production from their big three, however. Marcus Burton is one of the best scorers in the ACC. The sophomore guard is averaging 21.3 points a game on 45% shooting and 39% from the three-point line. He is pretty much the heartbeat of that offense, and he's shooting 5 threes a game. So to shoot 5 threes a game as the number one scoring option and make 39% of those, really solid number there. 3.5 rebounds a game, 2.9 assists per contest as well. So he has been like I said, the top scorer for Notre Dame. And then the second leading scorer is a name that Cardinal fans are familiar with. That is 6'9" junior from Indianapolis, Tae Davis, the younger brother of former Louisville Cardinal Dre Davis. He spent 1 year at Seton Hall and then transferred to Notre Dame and has gotten better pretty substantially every season to the tune of 15.8 points a game this year while shooting almost 50% from the field and contributing 5.6 rebounds a contest as well. So Tae Davis, Marcus Burton, and then you also have Braden Shrewsbury, the son of head coach Micah Shrewsbury. He's averaging 13.8 points a game while shooting 36% from behind the arc. So looking at this Notre Dame team, you put them side by side with the Louisville Cardinals. Statistically, not a huge difference across the board. The Cardinals do score more points than the Irish. They allow around the same, 69 for Louisville, 71 for Notre Dame. Field goal percentage is really close. And then same with turnovers and rebounds a game. The main thing here for the Cardinals is you're going up against a team that over the past couple of weeks, they've struggled with turnovers. They've struggled with keeping the offense flowing and also free throws. I mean, Louisville fans know all about that issue because either Louisville is shooting 60% from the free throw line or they're shooting very close to 100%. And it seems to be no in between on that. But for Micah Shrewsbury's squad, it's just been a lot of isolation ball at times. And when the three-point shots are falling, they're an extremely challenging team to beat. But another issue that has been hindering this squad is close game woes. It's sort of like NC State to where they're in the game and they're competing, but toward the end, they haven't really been able to make the clutch plays to get over the hump and win games. And that's why it's so refreshing to watch this Louisville team just excel time and time again in the clutch and at the end of the second half, because not many teams do well with that. So I think for the Cardinals, for a team that allows a good amount of open three-point shots, they have to do a better job of defending the perimeter, because if you let Notre Dame get hot from behind the arc, it's going to be a challenging contest. You have to do what you can to get Notre Dame in foul trouble, because if you do, you make them go to their bench, and they just don't get a ton of production from the supporting cast that isn't in the starting five. You have to be pesky, force the turnovers. They've been prone to turning the ball over more often than not recently. You just have to make matters difficult for the Irish on their offensive end. So I like Louisville's chances in this game, especially if Chucky Hepburn plays again. Terrence Edwards is playing like one of the best guards in the ACC. Rain Smith shoots really well away from the KFC Yum Center. And Javon Hadley's playing extremely solid basketball. I like Louisville in this one. I'm interested to see what the spread is going to look like when it comes out. But hopefully when we come back on Monday, we're discussing the Cardinals increasing the winning streak to 4. Speaking of games this weekend, the Louisville baseball season begins tonight in Arlington. Over the weekend, the Cardinals will take on 3 teams currently ranked in the top 25. We'll give a short preview of Dan McDonald's squad when we come back on this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? FanDuel makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With over 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I recently have tried their Protein Plus meals, and they're packed with flavor and have kept me full throughout the day. The convenience is absolutely unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off and use the code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's the code LockedOnCollege50 off at factormeal.com/LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. The Cards are back. You could apply that statement to many of the sports within the athletics department, but for the baseball team, the Cards are literally back tonight in the Shriners Children's College Classic down in Globe Life Field. That is the stadium home to the Texas Rangers down in Arlington, Texas. The Cardinals played in that, I think it was last year, they played down at what was Minute Maid Park, the Houston Astros Classic. They will now play a little down the road to the west, or up the road, I should say, in Dallas. They will take on 3 top 25 teams. Number 19, Texas. Number 17, Oklahoma State. And number 21, Arizona on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, respectfully. The Cardinals heading into the season are not currently ranked in the top 25. Some question marks with the squad, and this is a program that has missed the tournament 3 out of the last 4 years. That's something that we aren't used to as Louisville baseball fans, but there is some optimism surrounding this year's squad. I do think that they are better than the preseason hype or lack thereof. But it all comes down to the pitching staff, right? Dan McDonald's team last year had a really potent offense. They hit, I think it was like 311 for the season. The offense wasn't the problem. It was the pitching staff. They had an ACC worst 7.72 staff ERA. That is hashtag not good. Not good whatsoever. There is some optimism with this pitching staff. They have some guys returning that I believe have potential to take steps forward. If you look to the summer, Patrick Forbes had a really good performance in his summer league. He spent a lot of the year injured last season, but had a 3.72 ERA. 3.29 in the summer. He will be the opening day starter for the Cardinals and the team's likely Friday night starter moving forward. Parker Detmers, younger brother of Reed and a former top 150 prospect, gets the nod on day 2 of this series. Did not have a great year last year, but the hope is that he's able to take the next step forward. Everyone wondered about who was going to be the starter on day 3. Well, at least for this weekend, it's going to be Northwestern transfer Peter Michael. He will be on the bump for the team to end the weekend. He was actually a reliever for the Wildcats last year in the Big Ten, but had a 3.23 ERA as a starter in the Northwoods League this past summer. I'm interested to see what he's going to be able to bring to this team. Tucker Biven will be the team's closer. Ultimately, I think the name of the game is being serviceable. I believe a ton in Patrick Forbes. I think Forbes is going to be one of the better frontline starters in the ACC this season. That might be a hot take because the ACC is loaded with talent. As a matter of fact, there are 7 conference squads in the top 25. That's just how potent the league is. The Cardinals were predicted by a couple of, I think one projection for certain, to finish 9th. You're like, that's really low. Yes, it is, but also there are 7 preseason top 25 ACC teams. So it's like, is it because of Louisville not being good, or is it because of the ACC just being that good, or is it a combination of both? I'm probably choosing option number 3. But if Louisville's pitching staff can at least be serviceable, I think that the offensive production is going to help this team not only get back to the NCAA tournament, but to be able to make some noise this season too. Let's kind of look at where the Cardinals' strengths are. The main strength is going to be the outfield. Zion Rose returns, batted .380 last year, was a freshman All-American. One of the largest surprises of the offseason was Eddie King Jr. announcing his return to the program. He's not going to go pro. He's going to come back. .322 last year, had a breakout year. They're going to man 2/3 of the outfield. Now, where does Louisville turn for that other spot? You could look at Lucas Moore, who had a fantastic freshman season, or could it potentially be Toledo transfer Garrett Pike, who hit .360 with 21 home runs for the Rockets last season? I imagine that both of them will find their way into the lineup somehow. Behind the dish, Matt Klein, fantastic breakout season in 2024, batted .297, but in the Cape Cod League this summer, .375. He was incredible. I think he's going to be one of the best catchers to play in the ACC this year. The main question mark when it comes to the fielding aspect and thus the hitting aspect as well is the infield. You have one infield starter. Alex Alicea is the one infield starter. He could potentially be the leadoff. He could be the guy batting 9th to get back into the leadoff spot. He could play second base, could move to shortstop. Interested to see what that's going to look like on opening night, what that's going to look like through the first portion of the season. And then outside of that, the Cardinals will have a brand new infield rotation. So looking at first base, I think it's probably going to go to Florida Southwestern State transfer Nate Early, batted .335 with 16 home runs. Last year, spent 2 seasons in that league. I think he's going to get the nod at first base. Kamayu Neighbors potentially could play whichever spot Alicea doesn't play, second base or short. With Cal State Northridge last year, .305 batting average. But it's a matter of third base. I think you could see any of these 3 guys. Tennessee Tech transfer Tanner Shiver, or it could be Shiver, one of the two. .296 batting average. John Logan transferred John Monroe, .415 average, 23 home runs, 81 RBIs. Or it could be Marist transfer Byram Hoyt, who batted .278 with 7 home runs. Going to be interesting to see who plays at third base for the Cardinals. But I am optimistic about this year's squad. I think that if pitching can take the step forward, if the hitting can remain lethal, which it seems like it will. It's just continually, retooling each and every year. You're reloading. And this is somewhat your core. You have somewhat of a young offense outside of Eddie King and the transfers. You've got some guys coming back that, Zion Rose is probably the best player on the team, one of the best players in the ACC. I'm interested to see what that step forward is going to look like. So Cardinals are in action tonight against Texas. Chances are when you listen to this, the game might have already happened, but this was a preview for the entirety of the season. So we'll discuss what happens on next week of the show. But to conclude this Friday edition, we're going to discuss Louisville women's basketball's victory over a ranked Florida State team last night. They picked up 2 ranked victories in the span of a week. And Jeff Brom's team starting to play better and better as we get closer to the NCAA tournament. We'll discuss when we come back on this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a larger payout, well, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team, the Houston Rockets, for a late-game rally, or I'm looking for Jalen Green to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Louisville women's basketball team went down to Tallahassee on Thursday evening and took down number 23 Florida State 83-69. This was a game in which Jeff Walz' squad had control for the absolute entirety of the contest, and they didn't look back, even though it seemed like there was a pretty favorable whistle for the home team, especially in the second half, but it didn't matter. Taj Roberts continues to have an incredible freshman season, hit some great, tough, clutch shots down the stretch. She had a tie for team high 17 points with Jayda Curry, who also was fantastic. Both of them combined for 6 of 11 from the three-point line. You had Amari Berry score 11 off of the bench. Nyla Harris, 14 points, 9 rebounds. And Olivia Cochran was fantastic with 8 points and 9 rebounds. And this is the second ranked win in the span of a week. The Cardinals also defeated Stanford at the KFC Yum Center last Thursday. I'm sorry, California. My apologies. California. I was looking at the wrong score. They beat California, who was ranked 21 at the time, 70-63. And for this Louisville team that had some bumps in the road early on, which truthfully was to be expected when you looked at how many freshmen this team had. It was going to take some time. For the men's basketball team, the issue was you had all new incoming players to where you had to allow those guys to mesh. The same concept applies for the women's basketball team in a little bit of a different sense because there's more youth with the women's basketball team. You do have your veteran presence, and that is key. It has been critical for this team being able to play better and better. But the Cardinals are currently at 18-7. They're 11-3 in conference play. I would argue that, truthfully, it might not seem like it because of how good Jeff Walz' teams have been in his tenure. This is one of the more impressive coaching jobs by Jeff Walz. Basically, half or the majority of this team is either freshmen or underclassmen. So getting these players to buy in to the system, getting them comfortable playing with one another, learning their strengths and weaknesses. And not only that, but having a good amount of success continuing through the season is key. 18-7, 11-3 in conference play. They're two and a half games back out of first place behind an undefeated conference Notre Dame team. To be fourth in conference play with this young of a team, it's incredible. Now, I know bracketology heading into the week had Louisville like an 8 seed. I want to see how the wins against California and Florida State might have affected that. I think it might have raised the ranking just a little bit. Louisville will now still continue to play tough competition because the ACC is a really good conference. They're at Duke next week. They'll have North Carolina immediately following that. So 2 ranked teams against top 15 teams currently. It starts with how good the backcourt tandem of Taj Roberts and Jayda Curry has been. Roberts is one of the best freshmen in the country. The 5'10" native of San Diego is going to be, if she stays at Louisville, in my opinion, an all-time great in this program. And that is something that you can't say lightly because of how much talent this program has had over the years. Jayda Curry has been fantastic, double-digit scoring in 6 of her last 7 games. That has helped Louisville be able to turn up the that's been able to allow Louisville to turn up over the season, have a good amount of success. One thing I also think is a huge factor in Louisville being able to get better and better is not just the freshmen playing better, like Amari Berry has been great off the bench. Taj Roberts has been great. You've had some good minutes from McKinley Randolph and company. But the veteran presence and leadership from Jayda Curry, Olivia Cochran, Nyla Harris, and Jalea Williams, also Marissa Russell, it gives you a ton of leadership on and off the court. And I do believe it's played a huge, huge pivotal role in helping these freshmen develop through the season. Not only for the future, it's also say, hey, look, we're going to be good now. And the Cardinals had a chance to take Notre Dame down to the wire. Like, they were right in striking distance at the beginning of February, and then Notre Dame went on a little bit of a run in that third quarter. But Louisville competed. And then you look at before that, they've won 5 of their last 6 games. They were on a winning streak before they lost to Virginia Tech. They lost twice in the 2025 calendar year. A close loss at Virginia Tech, and then a game against Notre Dame in which they were competing pretty heavily up until the end of that third quarter. So I really am interested to see how Jeff Walz' squad plays at Duke and against North Carolina. If you can show out in that and either split those games or better yet, win both of those, I think that you make a statement to the rest of the country because truthfully, this team should be ranked. If they're not ranked by next week, I think that's a pretty significant disservice to how good this team has been. So it's been awesome to watch this team progress over the season, and I'm excited to see how they continue to play as we get closer and closer to the end of the year. That's going to wrap up this Friday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day, a great weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Go Cards.